Hey guys, it's mattwandcow here with another episode of Mad Matt's video blog. I think episode 70 was yesterday, so I think this is 71. And so it's really late, so I'm gonna try and make this quick, which means it's probably going to end up being a 15-minute video, the second 15-minute video I've made tonight. If you follow me and watch me on YouTube, inside the little white wall screen, then you know that I did just post a previous video about why I failed making my comic tonight. It's really not about why, it's that I did. But that's not the main point that I want to talk about today. Today is going to be, no, I'm not going to go back and re-record and redo the intro. This is the monthly D&D report for January 2012. Hello, Derek! I hope things are faring well there in Seattle. You're in Seattle, right? Yeah. So hook me up with some Nintendo games. Probably not. I don't really ever have time to play. So, since the last time we talked, let's see. Yeah, I probably should have gone through my notes. So we were in this tower, this elemental wizard's tower, and there was this big earth elemental that came and trampled us, but I think I told you about that. And then we stepped onto this teleporter that took us around and went to a bunch of different places, and then it took us to this water dungeon, and there's this big ice elemental, and it kind of was like throwing us around, so that was kind of cool. Then we went to this fire elemental, and this big fire elemental is like, "So, you wish to kill my master?" And we're like, yeah, wanna fight? And he's like, "No, I want you to kill my master." And we're like, "Cool, we can do that. Can you not come when he calls? And can you tell us how to, get to Sesame Street?" Or exactly wherever we were going, I'm not entirely sure. My character is probably supposed to care a little bit more, but I'm tending to play him, I set up all of these, character traits, and, for the story, and it's not what I want to really do for the character. So my character is going to be different, than what it currently is. I do like what my character is. No, I do like the stuff my character does, because he's a slayer, and he's awesome. But there might be some cool stuff that I do with him. Anyway, so we went to the top of this tower, and there is this, apparently there's this apprentice guy who caught us. Apparently we went to the basement and then went all the way up, where everyone else comes in from the top. So, who knew that? So anyway, we found this apprentice guy who's like, "Uh-oh, people, get him!" And we're like, whatever, and we kill him. And then the guy teleports and runs away. And then we find my brother, Jared, who, because of something that Adam and Alicia failed at or something, their babysitter can't babysit for them that night, and so now it's on Thursdays, which is slightly inconvenient for me, but really only me, and I'm fine with being slightly inconvenienced. And so we hold it on Thursdays now, which means Jared can come and play D&D with us. And so he made effectively, what is it? It's an assassin that gives up an encounter power for Assassin Strike or something? Or maybe it's the other way around. An executor... No, yeah, it's an executioner who gives up, something to get Power Strike. This doesn't sound right. I'm not entirely sure what he did, but he did it, and it was cool. And, he had a lot of really impressive stuff going on, except he had very few hit points and was dying a lot, where the rest of us kind of weren't. And so we then went and teleported somewhere, and we were on suddenly a chessboard, and we had to do it, and it didn't quite exactly work. I would have done it with, teleporting, opening a portal and making an attack type thing, but that would kind of, the more accurate you're trying to make your chessboard, the more complicated it's getting. So if anyone out there in internet land has an interesting way of playing, a D&D campaign where the characters are sucked onto a chessboard and have to play, illusion chess, wizard's chess, whatever it is, by Dungeons & Dragons, more than just replacing the pieces a la Harry Potter, because then that kind of limits people's characters, and then it's, 5 people playing against the DM, and unless the DM's really good, they're probably going to beat him down. So, yeah. Anyway, so we did play chess for a while, and we did manage to beat them down and destroy the king and destroy all the other pieces, because apparently that didn't make it win, which I thought would be an interesting trick. There was this cool thing where as long as the king was in checkmate, none of the other pieces could do anything but try and stop the checkmate. and so that gave us, a lot more freedom of movement, I guess, and it made putting him in multiple check extremely useful. Because pretty much once the king doesn't have any legal to move, he has to stay there, and you can. There's a bunch of stuff you could do. It was actually kind of cool. And so from there we managed to beat him, and then we went to this place where there's this gigantic room, and we see the fire elemental get. We go to the, and they're like, oh, it's the wizard, and he's like, oh yeah, I will face the wrath of my elementals, and he presses two buttons on his gauntlet thing, and the wind elemental comes, and then the fire elemental does it, and he's like, person, I curse your name, I'll be back with a fire elemental, teleport. And so he teleports away before I can get him, which sucked, because I had my face slaughter blade out, and I was about to go and say, you denied, no teleportation for you. So anyway, now there's this wind elemental, and he's all like blowing around, I personally think of him like the tornado in Hercules. And he was based off of a monk, and instead of actually taking, having an AC, he made a counterattack, and if he won, he deflected the attack, and if he lost, we actually hit him. And it was pretty annoying because, I'm a slayer. My entire purpose in life is to have a plus 10 compared to another character. I'm supposed to be, I'm supposed to hit every single time. And so it got pretty annoying, and we got pretty close to dying, and then we kill him, and go upstairs again or something, I can't remember exactly what, and there's the fire elemental getting thrown to the other wall, and we're like, oh crap, there's this guy, and so we charge him and attack him, and it sucked. He did bring in the whole Adam not being able to cast food and water. Paul did, and so that was kind of cool. But we did manage to kill him, and then the fire elemental got us the gauntlets, and so we beat the tower. So now it's my campaign, and so what I did, is I've been thinking about this campaign, and there's this book series by Stephen Bruce called Jereg, or the Vlad Taltos novels, and one of the books, I think it's book 3 or 4, the guy's an assassin. And he's, it's a really interesting story where he's set up, he has like some thugs that are like throwing spells at him and stuff, and he's trapped in a basement, and so, he's about to go out in a blaze of glory, and so he says a prayer to his goddess, and it's answered, and his goddess wants to hire him to kill somebody. And I thought that was a very intriguing idea, and so what I wanted to do was I wanted to set up an encounter, a campaign setting, where a bunch of gods got together and said, hey, you guys go kill him. And I needed to find a good, excuse. I contemplated doing like an evil party. What I settled on was asking that every character be either trained in religion or religious. What this allowed us to do was pretty much all of these people would be people who were like trusted by their gods. And so we have an interesting, setup. We've got the return of Tanith and his airship, and Tanith has been reworked as a hybrid cleric barbarian, and Paul seems to have a lot of fun with him. All I know is he got a lot of attacks, which is kind of cool, but it was kind of annoying, especially because it's like, hey look, it's the 4th round, I've made 7 attacks. That's great, Tanith. That's great. And so then we had, so Tanith worshipping Tempest, of course, and then we had Adam as like a archer warlord who worshipped Cord, who, by the way, in the terms of my research that I did for this, Cord is pretty much an extremely blatant ripoff of Thor. If you go to the Dungeons & Dragons wiki, which is located right here if you click on this link, it's not the Dungeons & Dragons wiki, it's just the regular wiki page for the Dungeons & Dragons deities list. And you go down and you click on Cord, you can read through and you find out that his, afterlife is on the Mount of Yizgard, and the people there, party and brawl for eternity if they've been valiant warriors. It's extremely Norse, so that was kind of annoying. But anyway, Adam worshipped Cord, and, Tempest, according to Tanith, Tempest looks down on Cord, and according to Adam, you know, his character is like, you know, hey, you're a combat-y person, let's be friends. So that was kind of funny. Then Alicia's playing a Diva Avenger for Bahamut. Kind of okay. I don't know entirely what your backstory is. She has a backstory that apparently she wrote in 3 minutes before the thing started, but I have no clue what it is. It looks like she's put a little bit more effort into understanding what her character is, which I count as a win for my campaign. And then we have Jared, who's a paladin for Bahamut, and so that's kind of cool. And then we've got Kevin, who is a witch, who, you know, a female witch who was having trysts with like this sea elf god, this very, very obscure person. And so what I did is, you know, if you go to my blog, which is a link right here or so, you can see I'm doing this cool project called the 100 Words of January. I've mentioned it here once or twice before. And what this, the 100 Words of January is the writing, the daily writing thing that I still need to get to. Hey, look, it's 12:30. So, and I use that for that. And so all of the stories that I started with are posted there. And what I did is I, you know, got to get all of the characters at the same spot to start. I wrote these little, you know, half-page, you know, things of where they have a dream, talk to their god. Their god says, here is a bit of quest information. Go here. Be there by then. Talk to this guy. And so then it's like, okay, so it is now then. You're talking to that guy at that place. And scene. And so instead of having to try and grab everybody and bring them in at the moment, I had already done that and just gave them a piece of paper to read to understand what was going on. So that was cool. I was glad of it. So then there's like this, you know, actually, I'm going to give you guys some of the, no, I don't trust people who watched it. So I'm not going to mention any of like the foreshadowy clue thingies. I'm not going to do anything. So anyway, they, another thing that I really wanted to bring into this campaign is I was reading in the Forgotten Realms book and just flipping through, and it's talking about the spell plague, and it brings up the concept of earth motes, which is a gigantic rock that floats in the sky that people build a city on, or, you know, a big, you know, manor house with a gigantic warehouse and shipping thing underneath. I'm not entirely sure what the bad, you know, sub-bad guy's business was. I think he was kind of a smuggly type guy, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, he was rich. That's all that really matters. And he lived in an earth moat, which is awesome. And hey, look! Tanith has an airship. Excellent. And so, you know, they get their marching orders from the Priest of Prelor. They get in Tanith's airship. They fly over there. And of course, Tanith, being Tanith, isn't going to let anybody who's not stout of heart onto, you know, the ship. And so, you know, he charges and attacks everybody. And, you know, he comes up to Kevin and he's like, well, madam, I don't, you know, quite know if you're going to be able to cut your way. And she just goes like, hypnosis, go over there. Or Kevin goes, hypnosis, go over there. It's like, what? But, you know, what just happened? Fireworks! Tanith's like, wow, I see, a magic caster. You would be useful. And then he makes Adam try and hit something, and he, like, misses, and it was kind of funny. Adam had, like, I'm looking at, like, I used my Kindle Fire, and came up with, like, the actual averages of all of the characters, and I'm basing numbers off of that, and it's very interesting to look at. And Adam has, like, 6 AC below everybody else. And I don't know how he did it. And it was very, like, seriously, he's got, you know, he has less armor than the friggin' spellcaster. Yeah. And he's a warlord. An archer warlord, sure. But it's really kind of stupid. So, that was weird. Anyway, so we loaded up in Tanith's airship, and I'm like, hey, there were 2 places that you can go in without, like, being just shot out of the air by magic spells. Do you want to go to the gardens or to the docking bay in the side of the ship? Think the Death Star, where they had the tractor beam in the gigantic bay. Not quite that big, but similar concepts. And they're like, the docking bay. Let's lie our way in. What's the best bluff score? 12. Yay! This'll be fun. And so they can't really lie. And so, you know, the one time they tried, Jared rolled a 2. So, you know, they have 14 bluff against some guy who's kind of like trained in insight. Yeah, that's not gonna work. So anyway, there's this, you know, they meet some deckhands who really don't care. They go and they talk to the steward guy who's a tiefling. He's got this awesome hawk on his shoulder. And so he's like, yeah, sure, whatever, come on. And so they see the guy and he's like dueling and getting in his daily exercise. So he's already got a sword in his hand. So what do? They tell him they need the sacred amulet of Asmodeus. It was, you know, the ruler of the 9th level of hell. And they're all like, he's all like, what? No, mine. And we're all like, well, we'll fight you for it. And like, bring it. And so, you know, it starts, and I rolled horribly. I mean, I'd already put it the DM screen because I don't know how to read the thing, and I find it extreme. You know, I need to see the board. I'm not quite tall enough. I really need to be able to look at the board and see what's going on to try and do things tactically. I don't like standing up all the time. So I put away the DM screen so I cannot hide my rolls, which is kind of stupid. I need to do something better. I'm not quite sure what I want to do yet. And so, from that, you know, they did manage to kill the big guy who, you know, he wasn't a big guy yet. You know, he's kind of annoying, you know, just swordsman who's doing a bunch of stuff. And then they bloodied him really quickly, I might add, like in the first round. And so he's like, he shoves everybody away and he turns into like a 12-foot high demon or something like that. And so then they have to deal with him. Meanwhile, there's this tiefling mage guy who's sucking up on magic, which I kind of explained away by, you know, it being a bad day for Asmodeus astrologically, which is kind of part of the, you know, they have to destroy this amulet. And so he finally didn't work as well as it should have. He should have, but it was a lot of fun. What he did is he has this wand and he fires it, and it shoots this beam, and it hits Jared, and only Jared. It does this line thing, and so it should be able to hit a couple people in a line. So it almost hit Paul, but it missed because I rolled crappy. But it did hit Jared, and what it does is it turns him into a mouse. Then, after the tiefling's turn, it's the hawk's turn. So the hawk takes off and swoops and grabs him and deals a bunch of damage and flies up into the air. Where on Jared's turn, he turns back into a person and is supposed to fall flat on his face and take damage. But apparently everyone's like, 20 feet. We can fall from 20 feet. I'm like, what? That's kind of stupid. So I probably should have worked something in where he takes extra damage from falling after being turned into a mouse, not being ready to fall. If I ever run this again, if I ever like make this a pre-made, this is actually a good campaign to make into a pre-made, because I do have a skill challenge coming up. There's like a lot of stuff that can be coming up that would be good. So this would make a very interesting pre-made, except it wouldn't be a pre-made for me. Here. Anyway, so Jared turned into a rat and fell on his face, and it was kind of funny. But they do manage to like butcher everything, because, you know, I got one nat 20. And that was off of a minion, and so he dealt like an extra 8 damage. And it was like, bleh. So, and I rolled incredible amounts of nat 1s and stuff, and it was just really stupid. Though I did manage, like at the last second, it's like, hey look, I'm going to use a fire blast and heal the main big guy, because, you know, he's a devil, which means that he's probably gained his hit points off of fire. And so after doing that, guess what? Alicia is like, I use, you know, Sword of Avenging Flame. And she like makes the roll, and it's like 36. I'm like, yep, that hits. Wait, Sword of what? She's like, Avenging Flame. I'm like, oh, what type of damage do you deal? And she's like, oh, fire. I'm like, excellent. How much damage? And so, you know, it didn't quite unbloody him, but, and so like the whole like it wasn't a great encounter. Next week might be a little bit better. I know I have a list of what people's numbers are now, so I can go through and try and determine things and make my head look like some weird tentacly monster. Hey, look, I'm like Grace from Elgin Shive. Interesting. Anyway, that's not the point.
Yeah, I got the kill.
But Paul's like, you need to make their defenses less so we hit more. Make them hit more so that they deal more damage so it feels more threatening. And I understand, but our I don't know. There's like this balance that I haven't found yet. It was much better than my dragon thing that I came up with at that last second. So, I'm not good at DMing yet, at least for combat encounters. Like, I seriously am almost like,
Are you sending in your monkey?
it'd be interesting for me to just come up with a story and have Paul come up with all the combat encounters. And just like, okay, well, I'm turning the time now over to Paul for combat. And then Paul does stuff in combat. So, I don't know, I've done co-DMing before, it kind of works. I've actually done it exactly like that before, and the problem is that the DM had, the combat DM had a paladin, and he thought he was all that, and managed to, destroy our carefully, done plans, and cause a bunch of problems. So I'm not entirely sure, and this episode has gotten way bigger than I wanted it to be. But you are current in Minot D&D. So, yeah, I think that's everything. It's going to be pretty awesome. I've got maybe 4 more weeks, I think. How far did I get today? I got through effectively 2 encounters, though they only really fought one of them. But it was a double encounter because, they had the option of fighting the guy, like, at the docks or up in the gardens, of fighting the tiefling steward, and they didn't. And so that did make that combat a little bit more. I was going to make it more magey and less, Malthus, the bad guy, a little bit less swordman-y and more magey. But I already had a mage, and so I kind of just, and I didn't make any numbers beforehand. I kind of figured out what I kind of wanted to happen, and threw the numbers together, and just kind of went with my gut off of each roll and stuff. Well, not quite, because people catch you doing that. But I did jot down some numbers and kind of tweak them. And when he turned into a demon, because they were hitting him like crazy. Like, seriously, they were hitting him. And every time they missed, it was by 1 when they were rolling like a 9. And so I have no pity on them whatsoever. I think a good number should be their average, to hit plus 13. That should be a good AC for, a solo. Because they were in an encounter with 2 solos, and they were complaining. So, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. This is an extremely, out of all of the rest of the combat, there's 2 more solo encounters, and then 2 horde encounters. So that does end up to be 4 more combat encounters, with 1 or 2 encounters that they can kind of skill trick through. One of them turns into a, actually, in both of those skill checky ones, if they do one of them towards the end wrong, it turns into a combat encounter. And if they do the skill challenge wrong, it turns into a, holy crap, we just gave a bad guy a ton of power. So, we'll see how that goes. I am probably, this is going to be so much more, pre-made-y than, my time travel-y one. So, maybe you'll see it again. Maybe it'll be on a play-by-post, which would suck, because then they could just watch these videos and see how things go. But I'll have to figure out what's going on. Anyway, Derek, that is your D&D report. Yeah, sure, why not? We do miss you, because it is nice having another person there to DM and stuff, because it looks like Adam's going again after I'm done to try an interesting concept, and I'm like, So I'm thinking, I don't have it next to me. A new D&D book recently came out called Heroes of Feywild, and it's awesome. And I think you're going to have to click here to see me ramble about it, because this is already 25 minutes long, and it's going to take a while to upload. So I'm going to start uploading this one now. Click back there, here, I guess, back in time, to check out my ranting about the Heroes of Feywild, which is awesome. So this is mattwandcow saying, stay online, and I'll see you guys next time.